Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Kelsey Lucier, and I am presenting today on 10 tips for a good roommate relationship in college. And there's a couple boxes that I'm looking at here. And one thing I wanted to say was I'm a visual learner, so my eyes might kind of be going all over the place. I have notes down here, timer over here, um, some chat boxes. So bear with me if it looks like I'm paying attention to other things. It's actually all connected to the presentation. So thank you for coming. It's neat to see the numbers coming up. So you can ask questions during this presentation, and I can see them. Um, it's like a chat box, so I'm going to be checking on it. It's kind of big, so it blocks other things. So I'll check on it from time to time, but I'll definitely leave time at the end for questions, just to kind of run through what we're going to do. We'll go through the presentation. There's about 10 slides, technically 9. The last one just says Q&A. And then I'm giving away a copy of my book, which should be fun. I feel like students don't have a ton of money most of the time, so I have one of my author copies of my book that I'll give away during the presentation, and then I'll leave time at the end for questions. I think sometimes it's not helpful to just have somebody blab information at you. So that's my favorite part. So if you have questions, please type them in or wait till later, whatever works best for your learning style. I know for me, I have to write things down. So whatever works for you will work for me. Um, and then it should take about an hour, but I'm thinking my presentation will only take maybe half hour, 35 minutes, and then we'll leave some time for questions later. So I think that's it. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So this is just a little bit about my background. I have worked in higher education my entire, not life, but my entire working life. I just fell in love with college when I was a student, and it just changed my life. And the idea that then you could work at a place that changes people's lives like that was amazing to me. Um, so my background is, the first question just came in. Hi, thanks, Sabrina. Um, so I went to Occidental College in Los Angeles. It's a private liberal arts school, small school, big city. It was just perfect, and um, I just loved it. And then I got my master's in higher education from Harvard. So I kind of did both coasts, and then I worked all over in the middle. So I worked for colleges, with colleges for about 10 years, but I'm an English major at heart. So I just wanted more writing, but I wanted to keep helping students. So um, since I think 2008, I've been kind of a freelance writer. And so my whole job now is to write articles and do presentations like this, and have some blogs and different things for students to help students to do well in school. It's really hard, right? I think people have this impression that college is the best time of your life and it's easy and fun, and that might be true, but it's also very challenging in a lot of ways, including roommates. So I love my job of helping students. I can write, I can connect with people. It's just fantastic. And so currently you can find me on the College Life Expert on about.com. And all the content there is geared towards students. So there's a lot of roommate articles that deal with very specific roommate issues. Dirty roommates, roommates who have guests over too much, like you need to get your roommate a present, but you're not sure what to get. There's a list for that. Like I get a lot of emails about roommates. It's a big issue. So I try to provide a lot of content for students. Um, but at that site, I was also getting a lot of emails from parents. I used to have a forum there too. And I feel like parents should let students have their own space. So I founded a website for parents called the College Parent Handbook. And then also I'm the author of the book that just came out in April. So you can find it online. You can find it at Barnes & Noble. Um, some campus bookstores are carrying it. Depends on where you go to school. But I'm really proud of it because there's a lot of advice from people other than me. So there's everybody from deans of students and vice presidents to hall directors and RA and current students too. So it just kind of breaks down different kinds of stress that you might encounter during your time in school. I know I did. I could have used a book like that. Um, and it kind of presents it in a way that is very tangible, like, oh my gosh, I hate my professor. What do I do? Here's a list of 5 options that you would have. So hopefully that can help students too. Okay, so moving on. So I'm not sure if anyone saw me do my presentation with College Week Live last time. I love College Week Live. It's such a cool idea. And my last presentation was on time management, and I compared time management in college to a jar of marbles. And so preparing for this presentation, I was going through that slideshow and trying to figure out another analogy that could work for roommates. So I could download graphics and get things ready. Um, and the analogy worked too. So it's sort of interesting. I think it connects because um, college is essentially a jar, and what you put in there is your experience. And so you have different kind of canisters of experience, right? So like your time management is one thing. If you cannot manage your time well, your time in college is extremely challenging, right? If you have a very difficult roommate situation, that just takes a lot of energy from you. So I kind of just stuck with this, not kind of, I did stick with this analogy of roommate life being like a jar of marbles. So if you think of your roommate relationship as an empty jar, the marbles are what you put in. So there is very rarely one specific thing that makes somebody a good roommate or a bad roommate, right? Um, there are some exceptions. If your roommate does something that makes you not feel safe, that is not a good situation. So there are a few exceptions to that rule. But good roommate actions build up and bad roommate actions build up. It's not just one thing, right? It's a bunch of intentions, it's a bunch of decisions, it's a bunch of situations, it's a bunch of interactions. So if you sort of view going into your roommate experience, your roommate relationship as this empty jar, it's up to you to kind of decide what to put in there. Other things are going to be put in there by your roommate. Hopefully they're good things, but the overall experience really depends on a bunch of little things. So trying to keep that in mind, I think sometimes people, particularly new students at the beginning of the year, will have a few awkward situations or we'll see things about their roommate on Facebook or whatever and kind of like flip, like, oh my gosh, I cannot live with this person. But you don't know yet, right? It's just a few things in your jar. So I just want to present that kind of analogy because we're going to go through it through the rest of the presentation. So looking at the bigger picture of college roommates, so I used to work in residence life, and I actually assigned all the incoming roommates on summer. So, and I've been the hall director and worked with all kinds of resident life dorm situations. So the whole goal of pairing roommates, administrators want you to have a good roommate experience, right? Like the faculty want you to have a good roommate experience. You would like to have a good roommate experience. So the intention there is to have a good experience for everybody. So the goal of roommate assignments is to ensure a safety, right? People need to be safe and a positive experience for everyone. But a positive experience can also include growth. So you might be paired with someone that you just would never think you had anything in common with. And that might be the point, right? For you to learn more about another culture, another personality style, another leadership style, a learning style, just anything. And the point too with roommates is not necessarily just to create a match within the room, it's to create a match in the whole community. So sometimes you can pick, like you can opt into all kinds of communities, right? There's living learning communities, smoke-free communities. Campuses have all kinds of really cool stuff. And the roommate matches within there are all, I guess, essentially marbles trying to build up that particular community. So I just want students to know, and parents too, that administrators are trying to make it work. So we're not just sort of casually like pairing you up or not really putting any intention in. It's a very intentional decision. And this applies to, I know a lot of colleges now use websites or apps or different resources for letting you pick your own roommate. And they do that because they think you are more likely, and in fact, statistically, you are more likely to stay with your roommate and have a good experience if you pick your own. So there's a lot going on with that. So just trust that there's good intentions behind the process, right? Nobody wants to set up a bad roommate situation. Okay, so one key thing about roommate life, and this is true probably for all kinds of relationships, college-based and otherwise. So as a roommate, it is important to realize that what you intended to happen may not actually be what happened. So your intent as a roommate may be different than your impact. Um, so I wrote here, while your intentions as a roommate are important, your impact is what happens most, or is what matters most, excuse me. So this is a key concept to remember. If you have no intention of offending your roommate, right? But you think cleaning up the room, maybe throwing out some stuff, doing some dishes, picking up their side of the room, that's a nice thing, right? Your intention is really nice, right? I would like somebody to do that for me, but not all roommates would. So your impact might be different. Your impact might be your roommate feels like you went into their space, you're judging them for being dirty, they were going to clean it anyway, and you made a decision about the room without talking to them. That could not at all be what you intended to happen, but that's actually what happened. So your intent is important, but the impact of that intent is also very important. And it could be minor, right? Like you just want to borrow your roommate's basketball and go shoot hoops for 30 minutes. Your roommate's not home. So you take the basketball and you leave. But maybe your roommate needs it for practice and she comes back to the roommate or to the room and their basketball's gone. So you had no intention of sabotaging their day, right? You just kind of wanted to have some fun with your friends too. But the impact was that's what happened. So try to keep that in mind, that your intentions may be good and there is something to be said for that, but the impact may be different than what you wanted. And to just kind of note that your intentions can be good and your roommate can be mad and you both can be right, even though you're disagreeing. Doesn't mean anyone's done anything wrong, but you both have a legitimate argument to make, right? Okay, so these are the 10 tips. Excuse me. So this is from one of my articles on the collegelife.about.com site. And this is one of my most popular articles pretty much all the time. People want to know how to be a good roommate. So the key point is to be clear from the beginning. And one thing about being clear is that it's not just being clear about the kind of person you want to be, it's being clear about the kind of person you really are. So if you would like to be the kind of person who wakes up early, goes for a run, gets all their homework done on time, goes to sleep early, that's great. But if that's not who you are, your pattern is that you leave or you sleep late, you are really messy even though you said you were clean, like that, there can be a disconnect there, and you really need to be clear about what you know you need from the beginning of your roommate relationship. And also about expectations, like, I kind of expect my roommate not to have people sleeping in my bed. Like, that's a pretty fair expectation, but you might need to be clear about it. The second is to address things when they're little. So a lot of times roommates won't talk about conflicts because it's uncomfortable. And I understand that, right? I have that issue, but talking about things when they're little is much more comfortable than talking about them when they're big. So if you think it's a little bit uncomfortable to talk about maybe having a guest over, that like discomfort will just build, and then it turns into this huge thing by the end of the semester about you don't respect my space, you're always having people over, and it's not an easy conversation to have versus just saying like, hey, I noticed you had someone over and I think they slept in my bed. Like, I'm fine with visitors, but can you have them sleep somewhere else? Excuse me. Number 3, to respect your roommate's stuff. If you want to share things with your roommate, that's fantastic, right? You can save money. You guys can have a lot of things in common. You can share clothes. I mean, it's just great, but you need to be clear about that first. And respecting your roommate's stuff too applies also to space and to time. So if your roommate needs to go to bed early because they have a midterm, but your midterms are over, so you want to hang out, you need to find somewhere other than your room to do that, right? That's respecting their kind of space and stuff too. I have some water, excuse me. And that connects to the fourth one, which is be mindful of who you bring into your room and how often. Everyone has different comfort levels with guests. Some people are really social, they're totally fine having people over, they like to be the hangout room, you're doing a group project. Um, that's fantastic. That's what college is about. But you need to be clear with your roommate and make sure that's okay. And it could be your roommate likes having people over too, just not every single night. So just be aware of how often you have people over. You may not even be thinking about it, but your roommate may be thinking about it all the time. So just kind of check in with yourself. Like, how often am I having people in my roommate's space? Because it's not just your room. It's your and your roommate's room. Number 5 is lock the doors and windows, and this seems so minor, but a really great way to sabotage your roommate's relationship is to leave your door unlocked while you take a shower and somebody steals their laptop. So that's, again, your intent may not have been to lose your roommate's prized possession, but that's what happened. And this step is so simple, but it's really important. And nobody thinks their stuff is going to get stolen, right? Nobody says, okay, I'm just going to go take a shower. Someone's probably going to steal my roommate's laptop, but who cares, right? Nobody thinks it's going to happen, but that is a big issue sometimes. So just lock the doors and windows. It's like a really easy thing to do. It's so much easier to pay $20 for a lockout fee than it is $1,500 for their new Mac laptop, right? It's just a quick tip, but it matters. Okay, so number 6 is be friendly without expecting to be friends. And I think this is a really important distinction for people to make. There's some students, I think, just have a perception, I know I did going to college, that, oh, I hope I get along with my roommate and we'll just be friends. That's part of the deal. And that can be awesome when that happens, but that doesn't necessarily have to happen. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are in a bad roommate situation. So you need to be friendly. You know, when someone walks in, hey, how are you? How's your day? You know, you okay? You look kind of down or whatever. You can be friendly, but excuse me, you shouldn't expect to be friends all the time. And with that, you shouldn't expect to hang out with your roommate all the time. You need to build your own life for you. And also, that's a lot of time to spend with one person, right? Like, even if you and your roommate are best friends from high school and you're going to go live together in college, that can sometimes be problematic to spend 24 hours a day with somebody. So have your own social circles, have your own clubs and organizations, join your own sorority or fraternity, craft out your own life, right? And you can be friends with your roommate, they can share those things. Don't expect that to happen. If it happens, it's really nice, but if not, just be friendly. That's a great roommate relationship. If you guys are friendly, you respect each other, nobody leaves the door unlocked, things get messed up. That's a really healthy roommate relationship. Next is be open to new things. I think particularly if you're paired with someone who is a total stranger, they can be doing new things or have habits or be involved in activities that you have never even heard of and that for you are pretty strange. But to your other roommate is a comfort, right? So just be open to new things and try to learn from them, right? I mean, maybe some activity that your roommate's into is the coolest thing you never knew about, but it's hard to know that without letting your judgment go. So just be open to new things. It doesn't mean you have to endorse anything or love anything or do it also, but you do need to be open to it. And similar to that is to be open to change. And that includes yourself and your roommate. I think if students went to college, particularly in their first year, but any year, even seniors, and they were the exact same person the end of the academic year as they were when they started, that's a loss. You should change and grow. I mean, that's why you're going to college and other people aren't, right? You are interested in that challenge, and you want to grow and learn things. And learning in college doesn't only happen in the classroom. It happens 24/7. So that kind of change and growth and awareness and kind of opening your mind and changing how you think about things, and changing your base, your foundation of knowledge, that's what college is all about. So be open to that. I'm not saying it has to be comfortable. I still go through that myself, right? I'm like something many years from college, but it can be hard to change and grow, but that's the nature of a college education. And a roommate experience can be a really fantastic part of that. Okay, number 9, address things when they're big. So this connects to address things when they're small. If you don't address things when they're small, and they get really big, or something happens that is huge, like all of a sudden your roommate's significant other is there all the time, and that was not happening a month ago, you need to say to your roommate, dude, stop bringing your boyfriend over all the time. That's fine, right? It's a shared space. Um, so lastly, this one is most important, I think, because I can sit here and give you advice about roommates, but there's going to be situations that come up and you may not know what to do. So if you're not sure what to do, follow the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would like done unto yourself. So if you would not like someone eating the last of your Frosted Flakes, maybe that's not a good thing to do to your roommate. Your intent might be fine, right? But think about the impact. I might be a little mad, right, if someone ate all my stuff. And this is particularly true with regard to social media. So there's a great quote in the book, actually, from someone who works in housing, a staff member, a grad school friend of mine, who has a rule she gives her students, which is do not do or say or tweet or post or Instagram anything that you would not say to your roommate face to face. So getting on Twitter and ranting about your roommate may make you feel better, but really is a recipe for, I don't want to say disaster, but it's a recipe for bigger conflict that will need to be addressed. Same with pictures. It's your private space and it's your roommate's private space. So even if you love your roommate so much and they're so cute and they're sleeping and you just want to take a little picture and put it up, don't do it. Your room is a private area. It should not be publicized. Even if you think all your privacy settings are set, to your roommate, the privacy setting is what happens in the room stays in the room. So broadcasting that out violates that privacy. And if you would not want someone putting a picture of you up, don't do it to your roommate. It's just a bad idea. If you would not say it to your roommate's face, don't tweet it. Don't put it out there. Just go grab coffee with a friend and process instead in a non-public way. So in essence, consider what your actions and your inactions contribute to your jar. So everything you do, whether it's super nice, like bringing your roommate a cupcake because they're having a bad day, or not so nice, like eating the last of their food, that all goes into the jar. And even if you don't really do anything for your roommate, that also builds a relationship, you know? So just be mindful about the things that you are doing. Are you friendly? Do you say hi? That's a marble in the jar, right? If your roommate knows coming home like you're going to be pleasant and nice, that's a marble in the jar. If they know you're going to come home and be all cranky and you don't want to talk to them, that's part of the experience too. And again, it's all the little things. Okay, so where to go on campus for help? I get a lot of emails and some of the articles on my about.com site about roommates mostly deal with problem situations. So one thing I want students to know, both for roommates and any kind of situation on campus, there's always someone there to help you. Colleges are set up to support students. So find the support network, the support system that will help you with whatever problem you're having, whether it is a bad professor or a totally wacky roommate, right? So first, your roommate is a person to go for help. Don't underestimate the power of just talking to your roommate. It can be so uncomfortable. But it's really important, and it's okay if you can't do that. Sometimes just confronting something is too much, or you don't know how to address it, or you don't know if you're overreacting. That's fine too. But just remember that your roommate can be a solution and a resource. Then there's the residence hall staff, RAs, hall directors, hall coordinators. Every campus has their own language. Even if you're in off-campus housing, you can sometimes still talk to the residence hall staff or the residence life staff about roommate issues and what to do. Then there's other staff on campus, the larger, again, residence life staff, team of students. Especially if you're feeling unsafe in any situation, that is something to go straight to hall director, RA, dean of students, anyone. If you ever, at any time, feel unsafe, you need to reach out right away. And then also counseling office, academic advisor, or anyone else on campus. if your roommate is just triggering all kinds of things for you, or pushing your buttons, or bringing up things that are difficult for you to process, go see a counselor. You would not be the first college student to go talk to the counseling staff about a difficult roommate situation and other issues that it's kind of bringing to the surface. And one key point too, my work with students, I always feel bad because they feel like they're a bad person or they're doing poorly in college if they have a difficult roommate situation, and that's not what it means, right? So having a roommate conflict or problem does not mean someone is a bad roommate or did something wrong. It just means you're two people trying to figure out how to live together. One thing that always kind of bothers me about how general people, like kind of the media, deal with college students is they say, wait till you get into the real world. Well, for college students, it is the real world. You deal with very real things. Like if you picked two, adults in their 40s or something and put them in a teeny tiny room with someone they never met, have to pick a new job, go to school full time, work, do all these things, have friends, have a social life, have a relationship, deal with your family, that's pretty real. And I suspect they would have some conflicts, right? So it does not mean you're doing anything wrong if your roommate situation is bumpy. It just means you're two people trying to figure out how to live together, and that is a challenging process. Even the best roommates, like my first roommate was less than ideal, but we found a solution. I got a different roommate in the quad. We kind of mixed things up, and I'm still friends with her. I mean, she was dreamy as a roommate. She was great. So it doesn't mean I was a bad roommate because I couldn't live with my first match, right? It just means that we weren't a good pair. Okay, so some key roommate relationship highlights. Again, your roommate relationship depends on lots of little things adding up over time, whether they're negative things or positive things, or a compilation of both. Most likely they'll be both. Just like slowly filling a jar of marbles. Be aware of the difference between your intent and your impact. Your intent may be good, but your impact may be complicated. And understanding that difference is really important. Follow the basics when it comes to how you treat your roommate, your relationship, and your shared space. If you're not sure what to do, follow the golden rule. So just treat your roommate how you would like them to treat you. Because then even if your roommate relationship doesn't work out, you can leave it saying, okay, I gave it my best. I acted in a way that I'm proud of. I treated that person kindly and fairly. It just didn't work out. You don't have to beat yourself up over it. And then don't be afraid to ask for help or advice. Doing so makes you a good roommate, not a bad one, right? Nobody can live with a stranger without seeing the problem, or live with your best friend without seeing the problem. It's difficult to live with people. I mean, I think the nature of living with other humans, right? Everybody has quirks and preferences and habits, and particularly in college, that all gets squished together in a tiny space. There's questions coming in, which is really cool. Okay, so the book giveaway. So I have a copy of a book that I wrote that hopefully can help some student out there. So if you would like it for you or your student, or sorry, you or a friend, I'm going to pop up this Q&A box. So the first student who remembers where I went to college, the first person who puts that in the Q&A can get a copy of my book. If you can Google it or remember. While you guys are looking for that, just flip the slides back. Winky, winky. The first question is, how does one deal with an unorganized roommate? So an unorganized roommate can present challenges. I'm guessing this person is organized. So if you are organized and your roommate is not, or you are not organized and your roommate is, the challenge becomes how do you divide your space? So you can't expect your roommate to be organized like you, just like they can't expect you to be disorganized like them. So having a roommate with a different organization level, I think warrants a conversation about expectations And that's not you have to do this. It's just I need a clean space to focus. That's me personally talking. I can't work unless my desk is clean. My mind gets scattered too. So having a conversation about what should be organized, what's disorganized, kind of space. Also, if you're in an apartment with a roommate and they're disorganized, they may be late on rent. Disorganization presents itself in a lot of ways. So I think having a good conversation about space, time, also things like if they're disorganized, they may be doing things last minute, which may mean they're pulling all-nighters, which means the lights on in your room all night, and that may not work for you. So be really specific and keep addressing it. It's not like you can make a list of rules in the beginning and have that work the whole time. Just kind of say, look, I know we've talked about how I'm organized, and this thing that you're doing is sort of making it difficult for me to focus on my classes or whatever. Oh no! Wait, hold on. Okay, Marissa, your last name starts with a B. You are the first person with the right answer. So if you can give me your email address, put it in the Q&A, no one else can see it. I will have a little conversation with you about like your mailing address and what you want to have happen. So Marissa B, you just won a free book. Congratulations. Okay, so next question is, how should you set the ground rules with your roommate from the beginning? That's a really good question. And I don't always like when people say, that's a great question, but that's a great question because there's no, I think the idea of like, these are the rules and you have to follow them and this is what's going to work for the rest of the semester doesn't actually work. So having a conversation about what you need, again, being honest about who you are, not who you want to be, right? Like, I tend to sleep late and I'm up late. So I need to know it's okay to leave the light on, or I need to find another place to study. Or you're in ROTC in college and you have to get up at 6 a.m. So you cannot have shenanigans going on in your room until 2 a.m., right? Because you have a scholarship associated with that or whatever. So I think the idea of a list is, or rules is good, but I think it just needs to be more about preferences and expectations. And also, too, there's something called a roommate contract that a lot of colleges will have students do, and that breaks down key topics like neatness, visitors, what hours you can go to sleep, things like that. And using the contract is sort of an excuse for you to talk about all those things and present things that you may not have thought about. So I would recommend using roommate contracts. I would recommend just being honest in the beginning and saying, hey, can we just talk about preferences? And I call it preferences instead of rules. So that you guys can kind of figure out what each person needs. The point of college is to do well academically, right? So you can phrase it as, look, I need this to study. I need space to be quiet when I'm reading. Other people need loud music on. So that might be something you need to negotiate. Okay, Marissa, I got your email. Thank you. I'm going to write it down really fast. Okay, next up, sorry, I have all these pop-ups. Is having a roommate better than living by yourself in college? I think for most people it is. Hold on, I'm still writing stuff down. It really depends on your own situation, but I think it is. I think having a roommate helps you connect with someone else. It kind of challenges you in a nice way, not a difficult way. You learn a ton more by having a roommate. It's fun to have a roommate. Like, let's not forget college should be fun too, right? So it's kind of fun to have somebody to giggle with and laugh with and order pizza with and share that experience with. And you never know, right, who your roommate might turn out to be. It could be your best friend for life. It could be, I mean, one of the people I didn't live with in college, but who I was very close with in college, went on to be a priest and perform my wedding ceremony, right? So you never know who you're going to meet, and having a roommate just increases the potential of meeting amazing people. So I would encourage people to have a roommate. You don't, I think better or worse can kind of depend on a lot of things, but I would strongly recommend it. Okay, so that is all the questions, but I don't believe that. So are there other questions that people have? It's like free advice, right? Nobody, your roommate's not going to know you asked them for advice? What are people nervous about or scared of? And I'm going to just head to the last few slides. I'm an introvert, so I'm going to wait for people to ask questions if they have any. But I think too, I just would want to mention that if you have problems with a roommate or you're not sure what to do or you have questions or anything, there's a lot of great resources available online too. And I suspect a lot of people end up at my about.com site because they're up late Googling, what do I do if I hate my roommate, right? That's like a big search term for my site. Because you don't want to like just ask that in a public way. And looking online can be a very private way. So there are some great resources online. Your campus may have some information online. Um, and I think too, one thing to remember, other students can be a really great resource, particularly upper class students who may have been through roommate situations, um, good and bad, right? So there's always, always, always folks to help you. And I'll go back to the beginning. My email is on here. So if you ever need anything, feel free to email me too. So you can mention that you attended one of these sessions. Sometimes I get a ton of email in a day. Sometimes I don't get very much. So I write back students when I can. I always try to write students back. So if you need something, just hit me up. Let me know. Okay, you guys are quiet. Dinner time, I guess, on the West Coast, or the East Coast. I'm in Boise, Idaho. Oh, it's flashing. All right, here we go. Let's see what's next. There's a parent. Our son has no siblings and will be in a triple. He tends to keep thoughts and feelings to himself and things can build up. That's that was me as a roommate. Very quiet and not only didn't feel comfortable kind of talking with people about things, but almost didn't know how, right? I mean, how do you just walk up to someone and say, you're a really dirty roommate and it's gross? So I think one piece of advice is to encourage your student to step outside of their comfort zone, which can be challenging, but it's part of going to college, and to just talk about things that aren't, they don't always have to be about roommate situations, right? Like just kind of talking with your roommate and building a friendliness and an open communication um, pattern. So that when things do come up, it's like, hey, Ben, we're in a small space. You cannot leave your laundry all over the place, right? It's just more of like an easy conversation versus trying to talk to somebody for the first time and it's full conflict and it's uncomfortable and they may not want to hear what you have to say. That's a lot of marbles, right? So I think encouraging your student to start off maybe with the roommate contract, ask the staff about that, and just let's see, roommate contract, set expectations from the beginning. And I think too, your student can say, look, I'm not always comfortable talking about things. Because then the other students may know, oh, all right, we have to check in with Mike or whatever every once in a while. Or they may know, man, he might need us to drag him along to pizza on Friday night. Right? There's a lot of different ways, I think, to challenge him, but ultimately the responsibility is on him. So I think reminding him of that can be helpful. I mean, again, that's why one goes to college, right? To kind of take a deep breath and try those things. I was so quiet. I've never talked in class before I went to college. Like, I never was comfortable with conflict. Just couldn't even imagine dealing with it. And college really helped me step out of that comfort zone and get the tools to learn how to do that. So it'll be okay. Just has to kind of learn that skill. You learn through trial and error. So be okay. All right. Anybody else? Anybody? Questions? Don't see anything. I'll do one last scroll to make sure I got everything. Also, to that parent, you can email me too, or head to that college parent handbook website. There's some questions about things like that, like what to do if you have concern about your student's roommate. Oh, someone's thank you. So helpful to hear you talk about your own experiences. You're welcome. Um, I think that's why I ended up writing this. I was a bit of a stress monger, but it helps me now, I think, relate to people. So if it can help you guys, that'd be great. Okay, well, thank you guys for coming. If anyone pops in a question, I'll let you know. But thank you for coming. There's some future really cool sessions on College Week Live. They do a great job of putting things together. So you can get about, I think, 15, 20 minutes till the next session. So take a quick break, grab something to eat, and enjoy the next speaker. And good luck. Feel free to contact me if you guys need anything. You'll do great. Good luck. Bye.